I'm an addict called Honey. Hi, family. It's so good. Welcome to Hawaii. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So grandiose. So full of bull still after all these years. Thanks to the committee for inviting me here. I don't know how that went down because I don't submit my tapes. I've spoken at a few conventions, but somebody always surreptitiously mails in one of my tapes, and then I get a call from the committee member or something. They say, "Are you willing?" Of course I'm willing. I always say, "Yeah, you know." It's such an honor to be here. Thanks, committee. I have a feeling that that person who submitted my tape might have a first initial of Tony, but I could be wrong, you know. So I'm not going to say that. So I want you to know that right now. I was driving around. Took a notion to drive down to Key West today just to see what's happened. I haven't been there in 10 years, and before that I was 10 years old. There have been some changes. It's awful good to be here. All I have to offer, special welcome to the newcomers. You're really the most important people here at this convention. All I have to offer you is my experience, strength, and hope. And that's what it was like and what happened and what it's like today. And I'm in awe sometimes when I look at my own life, and it's all because of God and Narcotics Anonymous. But let me start back when I first thought there was something going on with me and I didn't know what it was. And I was 38. And I was poking in and out of rooms, and this is before NA. This is our predecessors, you know, back in 1978. They too shall remain anonymous. Eh? Anyhow, I'm poking in and out of the rooms, and I see something in the eyes of the people who were here, you know, before me. I said, something's going on. I knew they had a stash. I knew they were doing something. And it was better stuff than what I was doing because I was miserable and didn't know how to get out of it. So I kept coming to meetings, smelling of a brewery. That was one of my favorite drugs. And people, they never told me not to come back. They said, keep coming back, honey, keep coming back. And I never stopped using. Please don't misunderstand me. I mean, I wanted what you guys had, but I did want to stop using to get it. I was too young. I was 38. Then I was 39. I said, I still got a lot of good years of running left in me, and I'm not giving it up. But the nicest thing, newcomers, I'll tell you, is you don't have to give anything up. Anything until you're ready to give it up. And that's a fact. Our third tradition says the only requirement for membership here is the desire to stop using. There's no requirement to be clean here. But we know if you keep coming back, we know the miracle's in for you too. Right? So there I was. Now I'm 40 and still coming to the meetings. Making doctors. I had a doctor on the east side of town for the downers, and I had a doctor on the west side of town for the uppers. And of course, every corner pub, you know. The legal drug. You know what I'm talking about, yeah. So I'm about 40 now, 40 and a half. And those same laughing eyes and laughing people are telling me, keep coming back, keep coming back. That there was no requirement to be clean. Because they knew when I showed I had a desire somewhere deep within me to find a new way to live. But I couldn't do anything about it because I didn't know what the problem was. I thought the problem was one or two of my ex-husbands. They were always telling me I needed to do something about the problem, and I thought they were talking about themselves, so I divorced them. That's a true story, okay? Anyhow, there I am, 40 and a half. Been going to the room since I was 38. And something happened. Something happened. It was like I was sucked in or something. And it was not fun anymore getting high. So I knew now that was screwing up my getting high, you know, my not that I had been having fun. I swear to you, it hadn't been fun for a long time. But anyhow, my first night, I think I'll talk about the night I shoved the stuff away from me. It was 3 a.m., and it was December 7th, 1979. My girlfriend and I had been out partying, whatever. And we came home with about 12 packs or whatever it was. And after 3, and it was 3 in the morning, I shoved it away and I said to her, Ellie, you can stay as long as you want. Drink as much as you want. And the speed's over there and the downers are over there and the, you know what's in the fridge. I'm going to bed. And I just shoved it away and I went to bed. I said, let yourself out. We lived in a little town, a little neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio, and we never even bothered locking our doors back in '79. I went to bed. That was on Thursday night. Saturday, I didn't use on Friday. I didn't know something was going on with me, almost against my will. Almost against my will. Saturday, I decided to call a hotline. And I thought maybe I would make an effort. I didn't have any real desire to stop using. I didn't know. I was 40 and a half years old. I didn't know how I would live without using. I was in love with this stuff that helped me cope with life. And the thoughts of it was so painful. It was like putting down my best friend. And I called the helpline. Somebody calls me back. You want to go to me tonight? Well, not tonight. It's Saturday night. You know, I had places to be on Saturday night. Says, why'd you call? I said, well, I don't know, whatever. And she says, I'll pick you up. I said, oh no, I didn't want one of you people by my house, you know. Some of us are really sicker than others of us, you know. So anyhow, she says, no, it's okay. Well, I'll meet you over there. I said, no, I can't go. I don't have any gas. She said, you had gas. You were going to go out a little while ago. I said, oh, well, I had enough to do that. But you understand, I didn't have any gas. I said, well, okay. I finally agreed I'd let her come pick me up. Her name turned out to be Mary, okay? So she come over and picked me up. We went to a meeting. And after the meeting, she says to me, come go with whatever her name was, Susie Q and me, we're going to take you out for coffee. I didn't know it then, but they were double teaming me. Look out for the two-step. I'm telling you right now. It's all over, but the shouting and the crying when they team up on you. It's called double team, newcomers. Look out for that one. It's worse than the old 1-2, the left, right, you know. So we go. So they say to me, are you an alcoholic? That was the question of the day. I said, not me. I like to party, but are you an addict? I said, not me. Are they out of it? I mean, we all knew that addicts were people who lived under bridges. In Trent, they were all men. There were no... All right, I take it back. But I kind of thought that on some level. You know, I mean, what was a prim and proper person like me doing, you know, associated with people like that? It was absurd, you know. I had been to places I never should have been, doing things I never should have done, with people I don't even know, didn't know then and don't know now, and doing God knows what. Thank God for blackouts, all I can say. So my sponsor, she wasn't my sponsor yet, Mary, she says to me this first night, oh, I won a book at that meeting, okay? She says to me, do you have a desire to stop using? I said, no, I don't have any desire to stop. Are you out of it? I just want to get my life. I weighed 220 pounds and I wanted to lose a little weight. I've been fat all my life. And I said, I want to lose a little weight here. Lay off. I understand beer's fattening. I was going to switch to more solid stuff, you understand, with no calories. She says, well... She said, well, you don't really have to be willing, you know. You don't have to have a desire. You could pray for a desire. Do you believe in God? I said, no, not really. But if there were a God, and if I pray for it, and if He granted my prayer, then I'm going to have to stop using. So I was sunk there. I was an atheist to begin with. I don't know what I was worrying about. Anyhow, she says, she knew what she had on her hands here, an intellectual fool. And she says to me, why don't you pray for the willingness to stop using? Well, you're laughing, but that made sense to me. I said, all right. I could do that because I knew that there was that escape clause. You know, I could always stop praying. If there really were a God, I could stop in the middle of this after that first prayer for willingness, and I didn't have to go forward with the second one. Whatever I thought, I don't know. But I said that prayer that night, and I've not used since. So that was God's miracle, working with this sick addict, see? And that's the power of my higher power. So I said to her, I have a real problem here. I like the steps. I'm going to hang around. I like the steps. I liked one, part of one. And I liked 9. I liked that grandiosity, running back and making amends and, shining. 12 looked good. Maybe 11, but I didn't know what that was about. So anyhow, she said to me, well, don't worry about all the steps. Just do it in order. Let's start with the first half of the first step. Minute powerless over my addiction. I says, well, I wasn't. I said, but I liked 1.5 because it talks about unmanageability, and I was twice divorced, and I was a college dropout, and my car was a mess. Every panel was dented, and I was an old clunker, And I could see I was on welfare getting food stamps. I was not only unemployable, I had never held a job for more than a year in my entire lifetime, except when I was a soda jerk in Opelika, Florida, at the ages of 12, 13, and 14. And that's really before I got too wide open. Right? So anyhow, just why don't you think about the ways your drugs controlled you? That'll work. The first half, ways drugs controlled you. And then we'll look at what the results of that. I said, no, not really. She said, you always wanted to drink a case of beer? I mean, you didn't worry about the calories. She never mentioned my fat, but that's what she was talking about. I said, well, I did switch to Scotch and Valium and this and that, blah, blah, blah. I said, they were lower in calories. And she says to me, did it work? I said, no, obviously it didn't work. She says, well, yeah, you might look at that as being a little bit powerless over what's going on in your life, and a little bit of unmanageability there. I said, okay, I can look at that. She said, did you ever have a blackout? I said, I don't know, what is that? I can't remember. She said, that's when you do things, and you know you did them, but you don't remember them. I said, oh yeah, I remember one time my girlfriend Ellie and I had closed this joint in Columbus, and we went out to my convertible, looking over the top of it, and I said, do you want to go for breakfast? These 2 good-looking dudes invited us to breakfast, and the next morning I'm talking to Ellie on the telephone. I said to her, Ellie, did we go for breakfast with those, did we meet those guys for breakfast? She says, oh, I don't remember. I said, well, hold the line. I went out to see if my car was in the driveway because I couldn't remember driving her home. And my car was there. I come back to the phone. I said, Ellie, this troubles me. You don't know if we went to breakfast. I don't know if we went to breakfast. The car's out in the driveway, so I must have driven us home. I just don't remember. She said, oh, hell, honey, that happens to me all the time. Nothing to worry about. But, you see, I hung with people like that. You don't think I wanted to hang with Susie Q, who drank 1.5 drinks, so she was getting a fuzzy feeling, so she didn't want any more. I drank with people and used with people like Ellie. Anyhow. My sponsor was overjoyed. Oh, Mary, oh, good, she says, that's a blackout. I said, well, what's so good about that, for crying out loud? Because they had a saying then that if you've had the blackout, you can come out of denial. Now it's all over, but the screaming and the shouting. Your days of freedom and joy are over. They're numbered. I said, That meant I had lost control, and I had, and I looked back over. She said, write it out. Write out a few things about how you'd lost control and the things that had happened. Did you ever wreck your car? Did you ever get a ticket? Did you ever go to jail? Yes, 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 to all the above. She said, write it down. I said, well, let me just tell it to you. She said, write it down. These steps are here, in order, in writing, and we do them with the sponsor. So that was the first half of the first step. I wrote down the unmanageability. I didn't know why I had no career. I knew I was intelligent. In the first grade in Opelika Elementary, they used to pull me out and have me go teach the kindergarten kids while the teacher went for a smoke break, and I can remember that. Because they had to keep me busy. I was so ornery. I did the work in half the time, and then I got in trouble, and I did it all my life. So anyhow, I had no excuses to why I was unemployed and unemployable, getting food stamps, welfare, twice divorced. My life was a mess. And it had always been a mess. And I had no rap for that. I said, what is wrong with this picture? She said, well, if you're like us, you have a disease. Chronic, progressive, fatal. Chronic means always there, never goes away, it's always there over time. Progressive, it never gets better, it always gets worse. And ultimately, left untreated, it will kill you. Well, I didn't like the sound of that at all. I told her so. And was about to bail out on this whole venture. I didn't like it. I didn't like anything I was hearing all of a sudden. And she said to me, picture your disease of addiction on the table and picture next to it other deadly diseases, you know, like Lou Gehrig's disease and terminal cancer and brain tumors that are inoperable. And just look at all that. Now grab one. Which one do you want? Which one, even though you can't cure it, you can arrest it on a daily basis? Which one, even though you're beyond human help, you're forced to find a higher power who is going to help you stay clean one day at a time? Which one of those diseases will you take? Because the whole mankind is plagued with one disease or another. You think you're so special that you don't get a disease too? Well, you know, my thinking turned around. And I took the disease of addiction and ran, and I said, I can deal with this today. Then I went on the pity pot. Poor man, 40 years old and one half, and my life is over. There I am. I just was ruined. College dropout. Well, you know the rap. I already ran it. She says, well, I want you to go down to this old, there was a clubhouse in Columbus, and all these old, doddering people coming in there, shaking and a-quaking and old, and smelling of breweries. They were like me, only 20 years in the future, men and women. She said, I want you to hang out there and drink coffee for a couple hours. And I did. I went down to this clubhouse, and I watched these people come in there, shaking and a-quaking and smelling like a brewery. And you know, detoxing from the pharmaceuticals and all those things that I did. They were 60 and 70 years old. I grabbed my car keys and I ran. I'll take 40 and one half. Help me do something with today. So, we got through the first step like that, and then she said, came to believe in a power of angels could restore your sanity. I said, fine, but I don't believe in anything like that. I was rigged Catholic there at Opelok, and I was always told I was going to hell in a handbasket. The nuns were always clucking at me at St. John's, and I was always eating meat on Friday and lying about it on Sunday. And I knew there was something wrong with that philosophy. Now, let's not get uppity about this. We know Narcotics Anonymous has no opinion about clubhouses and alcoholics and meat on Friday, but this is my story, you understand? This was the thought process that went on in me. So I said to my sponsor, I cannot believe in a power granted myself who's going to restore me to sanity. After all, I was barely in trouble, and I had a lot of good miles left on me. I could see it. And she says, well, don't worry about it, but you're going to stay on 2 until you can believe in some kind of higher power, loving higher power. And she said to me, you know, you could think about electricity, and you don't really know how that works, do you? I said, no, I haven't a clue. But you use it, don't you? You rely on it. And I was thinking how I'd load up my dishwasher with these dirty dishes, run to the mall shopping, and come back and push a button, and I'd get home, and the dishes would be clean. And I didn't know then, and I don't know now, how electricity works. But I used it. I relied on it. I depended on it, and it made my life better. She said, are you willing to believe that there may be a force, a loving power, who cares about you? She said, this is so important because if you're like I am, if you have the disease of addiction that is chronic, progressive, and fatal, then you are beyond human help. You are beyond human help. And you have to find a power greater than yourself who's going to restore you to sanity. Someone that you're going to talk to every morning. You're going to say please. And someone you're going to say at night, thank you. The only requirement about the higher power, this power must be good and loving. It cannot be like I had this omnipotent hitman of the universe kind of higher power. Gotcha, God, you know, you're going to get me for everything I did wrong. Throw that away. That did not work then, and it will not work now. So anyhow, I heard a woman share in a meeting that her higher power got her parking places at the mall. And this was, if you're paying attention to my story, this was about 2.5 weeks before Christmas. Well, you know what the mall is like in Christmas season, right? I said, all right. But before I went shopping, that next morning, I had to go to the welfare office, and I had to fill out. I told you I was on welfare, getting food. It couldn't work. Could not work. Twice a year, they'd haul me in there to fill out these forms, you know, about how I had no money, woe is me, and poor me, and all this kind of stuff. And twice a year, I went in and told my lies and got these checks and these food stamps. Before I went this particular morning, I said to my higher power, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're really there, and if you're the one keeping me clean, if you're the one running my show, get me a parking place at the welfare office. I got him now, right? So I go to the welfare office, and lo and behold, as I'm pulling up in the snow, slush, I usually had to park 3 blocks away or a lot farther, here's a car backing out right next to the handicap zone, but not the handicap zone. I said, wow, look at that coincidence. And I pulled right in there, you know. I called my sponsor that night, and I said, guess what happened? Blah, blah, blah. She said, well, you better thank your higher power in case that was your higher power. Who knows, right? Tonight, when you thank HP, that's what I called my higher. I was so cool, you understand. Call my higher power HP. So that night, I said, HP, thanks for keeping me clean today, and thanks for the parking place, and thanks for running my show. That was a little assignment that my sponsor had to do. I had to go back in a week because in Columbus they had a bifurcated system where you go down and you tell your story in forms for the check, and then you go back in a week and you tell the same story, if you can remember it, for the food stamps. So I had little crib notes. I was cool, you know. I knew just what I told them the week before, so I had no problem, buddy. But I did this little thing. I said to my higher power, keep me clean, run my show, and get me a parking place at the welfare office. And the same identical thing happened. Now, I had to look at that, you know. I said, well, told my sponsor, she said, in case it wasn't a coincidence, you better thank your higher power. I said, okay, that night, I said, HP, thanks for keeping me clean. Thanks for running my show. Thanks for getting me the parking place. Now I get on the phone, I call my girlfriend, Ellie. She's not clean yet, right? But I'm dragging her to meetings with me every night. Newcomers don't do this. I was really in danger and didn't know it. Maybe that's what protected me, I don't know. I said to her, listen, Ellie, I'm on to something really big here. Come to the meeting with me tonight. And then we're going to this club, and I'm going to ask my higher power to get us 2 tall, good-looking dudes to dance with all night long. And he's got to have, they've got to buy us orange juice all night long, right? Pay for our way. And be, you know, at least moderately gentlemanly about the whole thing anyhow. It sounds good to me, she says. Yeah, that's why we're best friends. So we go to the meeting, and after newcomers, you don't need to do this either, you know, alcohol, favorite drug, all over the joint. But anyhow, I said to Ellie, now she agreed not to drink with me that night, not to drink in front of me, rather. So before we go in, I said this little prayer. HP, keep me clean, run my show, and keep Ellie clean and run her show. And give us 2 tall, good-looking dudes. So in we go. We hadn't even sat down, and here they come. From either end of the club. Can we join you? Yeah, sure. Buy you a drink? Yeah, sure. But only orange juice. We don't drink. We were so prim and proper. I don't know. I had a week and a half clean or something, whatever I had. And that's how I came to believe in a power greater than myself to restore me to sanity. And that's the truth. Thanks. Anyhow, so now I say to my sponsor, I'm onto something here, you know, but it seemed kind of dangerous. You know, good Lord knows I could get in enough trouble without a higher power. Now look what I was armed and deadly and dangerous. So I said to my sponsor, you know, I see there might be a little danger on the horizon here about this thing. And she said, why don't you just stick to the basics? HP, keep me clean, run my show, and thank him at night for that. And don't get caught up in all this controversy about what HP is, because you don't know, and until you understand electricity, don't even think you're going to understand your higher power. So that was cool. So I leave the electricity to the physicist, the higher power to the higher power, and I just stay clean one day at a time, relying on that the whole time, the total time. And if I deviate one little bit, I get a feeling right here in my gut. And I'm going to tell you about the first time I saw that, or felt that, and acted on it. Was that night when we were at that club, and about 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm starting to get very, very uncomfortable. And I say to Ellie, I don't know what's going on here, but I got to get out of here. I am so uncomfortable. Oh, did I tell you the part about these guys with their little shots of stuff going around on top in a circular fashion over our orange juices? Sort of a form of Russian roulette with, I don't know, can you get the picture? Anyhow, and I'm watching this thing go round and round and round, and I was in trouble and didn't know it. I said, Ellie, you can stay, but I got to get out of here. She said, no, I'll go with you. So we get out the door. As soon as I step outside the door, oh, my gut is fine. I feel great. I feel sort of high, you know, in life. Superior. Sick. Anyhow, I tell my sponsor that little story, and she said, now you've learned something really exciting at a week and a half clean. I thought, if this is going to be another story like those deadly diseases on the table, I'm going to pass. And she said to me, no, you'll really like this one. That was your higher power giving you guidance. Just as if you were riding a wild horse, you know, and you have to kind of pull in the rein and get him to go a certain way because maybe there's a ledge or a pothole or something. That is your higher power right in there running your show, because remember, you ask for that in the morning, and you don't get that if you don't ask for it, but if you ask for it, you got it. Well, I like that idea. I never knew that. I never knew that there was a loving higher power in this universe, anywhere, or on this planet, I don't know, who cared, who even knew my name and social security number. Are you kidding me? I didn't know that. I thought I only got the big guy's attention when I did something very, very bad, you know, and he got me. I got me with those very, very bad deeds. It had nothing whatsoever to do with a higher power. Anyhow, at the conclusion of all that, the good-looking dudes and the parking places and all that kind of stuff, and the mall, that whole Christmas season, boy, people used to jump in my car and go with me shopping. After all that, I believed in a loving higher power who knew my name and who wanted to keep me clean. And that belief, at first it was speculation and hope and a longing, has turned into the most powerful force in my life today. It is the most wonderful, awesome journey that I have been on. And you know, it's right there in that 11th step, that 12th step, the first, the 11th, and the 12th. It tells us that that's going to happen. First of all, when we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact of God. Well, that's saying we've already had the conscious contact with God. And as I continued to work those steps, that conscious contact, that, if you will, spiritual reality, page 32 of our basic text, was coming to life in my life. And so I stand before you today and say, it isn't just a hope or a belief. I wish you knew what I know. And you will, because you're on the same journey I'm on. I did nothing different. For the first time in my life, I followed some directions. But boy, I am no spiritual giant. I'm going to tell you right now. I was just thinking today, should I tell them? Should I tell them what I've done already this weekend? Anyhow, I'm going to tell you. Now, so, you know, you can all leave here and take this little piece of how sick I am with you. I left Miami at 2 in the afternoon with my old man and a good friend. And we pull in by 5 here. Before sundown, I had broken 2 laws, 3 commandments, 10 or 12 promises. No problem whatsoever. I said, you know, I do have a 10th step somewhere, but I didn't have it handy. Now, I don't know. I share that with you to let you know that I have at no time attained any kind of perfection with these steps. And my higher power would be clucking at me tonight if I left you thinking anything differently, you know? Was like that. And that's okay. Now, I did get on my high horse. Let me tell you this, just a little example. What my 10th step will kick up. And too late. It was too late to make amends, so what am I going to do? Don't tell me. I bet there are 20, 50 opinions what I ought to do about this. I don't want to hear it tonight. Maybe tomorrow. We stopped for a cup of coffee up the road a little bit. 3 of us, 3 coffees, no problem. The check is $11 and change. Now, what is wrong with that picture, right? So anyhow, I said, well, I'll pay the check. It's too late, but I'm not tipping her. There, I got her, right? Now, this poor girl, what does she work for? Minimum wage if she's lucky. She didn't own the joint. Anyhow, so I get out of there. One of my friends was working a better program at the moment than I said, it's okay, honey. I'll leave the tip. I said, well, if you want to, I won't pick it back up, but I'm not leaving a tip. That was bad enough. As we're leaving, I say to her, the waitress, what do you think we are, tourists? Well, we were tourists, as a matter of fact. You know, and that was okay if she thought that. Oh, well, anyhow. You see why I have to keep coming back? Now, getting back to my sponsor, and I forgot to ask how long I'm supposed to talk till. Anyhow, getting back to my sponsor. So I came to believe in this loving higher power to give me dudes and parking places and all this kind of stuff. And I really was happy and relieved to make a decision to turn my will and my life over to his loving care. Her loving care, it's loving care. Don't have a clue. It's like electricity, remember? Except it's better. Much better. So she says to me, good, you're ready. Write out a 3rd step prayer. Anything you want, just share it with me. Okay, so I wrote out something like, here I am, run my show. I'm going to get in the back seat and you're going to drive. Amen. She said, that was beautiful, honey. Don't you love your first sponsor? They know how sick you are and try to hide it from you. I do the same thing with my sponsees now, too, you know. So I started doing my fourth step. She says, you're ready to do your fourth step. So I said, well, what is it? She said, well, you can do it any way you want. How about an autobiography? But listen, I don't want to hear about these horrible ex-husbands of yours and how your mother wasn't loving enough. I want to hear about you. I want to hear in the fourth step your life, your feelings. When were you ashamed? When did you wish you had acted better and didn't? It's your life. And start with your earliest recollection, and that's what I did. The part about that fourth step I want to share with you is I got in touch with resentments. I mean, I resented everybody and everything. From my mother, my father. He had the nerve to die on me when I was 14. And I never forgave him, and I never got over it. And I never forgave God, if there were a God at that time, because it was all about me, me, me. Everything was about me. Self, self, self. She said, write it out. Write about these resentments. I resented the founding fathers of the United States of America because there were no founding mothers of the United States of America. She said, write it out. I resented the United States Supreme Court in 1980 because there were no women on the United States Supreme Court in 1980. Isn't it wonderful? We've come a long way, baby. I resented all of these positions and all of these doors that were closed to me. But let's get real. I couldn't have done any of that anyhow. I was too busy partying. I couldn't have done anything or done anything. I was just partying. Anyhow, then I got into this resentment when I was about 15, and I lived in Opelika, and I was watching Perry Mason, a little black and white television set. And I get all enthused about it. I had read all of Earl Stanley Gardner's books. I love this guy. And I wanted to be Perry Mason, the female version. And my mother said to me, never mind Perry Mason, you can be Della Street, his secretary. I said, what? I do not want to be Della Street, his secretary. I want to be Perry Mason. And at the age of 15, I made a decision. If I couldn't be what I wanted to be, I wasn't going to be anything at all. And that was the name of that tune. In my fourth step, I wrote that down about being a female in the 50s and what my options were. And when I did my fifth step, it was, and sixth step, and seventh step, and I'm not going to go through the rest of the steps because you all have a sponsor, hopefully, and she or he will guide you. But the point I want to make about this particular issue was, if I didn't get over myself in this point, I would have continued being nothing. And I was told I could be anything I want. Now, we didn't have the basic text in 1980. Do you know, Narcotics Anonymous did not come to Columbus, Ohio until 1981, which we all breathed a sigh of relief at that point. And my son was cleaning up then. Some of you know the tough guy in Gainesville. And he's got 16 years by the grace of God and Narcotics Anonymous. Because NA came to town, I had asked my personal, loving, higher power to bring Narcotics Anonymous to town for my son. And it was done. Now, you may think that's a little self-centered. Keep your thought to yourself, please. Anyhow. Someone said to me, in 81 we had a little white, but someone said to me before that, your dreams can come true in recovery. And don't you know, in 1981 when we were sending drafts out to California for this book, there it was, our dreams come true in recovery. But I was already on the road by now, see? And I said, I can be anything I want to be when I grow up. I don't want to hear it that I'm 40 and 1/2 years old. Right? I felt really young and really strong and really dynamic. And so I started in college. Now there's always going to be someone come up to me. She said to me, goodness gracious, honey, you're 40 years old. It's going to take you 4 years of college and 3 years of law school. She could at least add, before you're a lawyer, you'll be 47 years old. I said, so what? I'm going to be 47 anyhow. Leave me alone. And off I went on my journey to becoming Perry Mason. And that's the truth. Well, I always get uncomfortable when I hear all that stuff because you know that is not my miracle. That is my higher power's miracle. You understand that I'm an addict and I self-destruct. You understand that. And on any bad day, that's what I am. And on a good day, I'm serving God, atta girl, I'm doing great things, reaching out to all the newcomers, passing a buck here and a buck there. On a bad day, I can totally self-destruct. But that's the power of this loving higher power, that he knows I've never worked 24 hours of perfection in this program, except I didn't pick up. And that's what we learn here. We not only promise you newcomers freedom from active addiction, but if you look at these steps, you're going to see a promise that you're going to be restored to sanity. I don't know if you're enough along to know that you've been sane. I don't want to be the one to tell you that. But if the shoe fits, Anyhow, look at the other promise. Look at the other promise we're going to have. We're going to have a spiritual awakening as a result of these. What does that mean? Does that mean a spiritual reality here? Of course it does. Page 32 of the basic text. Now, this is what was happening to me. I was on my way. After about 6 months clean, I wrote the steps, the ways I was powerless over nicotine because I was smoking 3 packs a day and inhaling every bit of it. These steps work for anything. And our beautiful third tradition says the only requirement for members is a desire to stop using. Of course, I qualified on about 10 other fronts by this point, right? So everything's cool. The point I'm making about my higher power, there is a loving power available to us all. I am not special. I am not unique. I'm not different. I'm an addict, staying clean one day at a time. And I went on to college, and it was tough. And in the middle of one of my creative writing courses, someone turned to me and said, "You ought to be a lawyer the way you can talk, honey." I said, "Funny you said that. I always wanted to be a lawyer. But now I'm 40 and blah, blah, and blah, blah." And this is before I had really committed myself. If my higher power wanted me to do it, I knew I could do it. And what did I have to lose anyhow? I hadn't worked in my whole life for any meaningful job. I was off and running. So I finally graduated Ohio State University. And I missed my graduation in '83 because that was the year Narcotics Anonymous took World to New York. And so my son, who at this time had 2 years clean, my daughter, who had about 6 weeks clean, and I had about not quite 4 years clean, went off to New York to join a bunch of other addicts at the World Trade Center. I don't know if anybody is here who was there that awesome weekend, but it was just wonderful. So I skipped my graduation at Ohio State University, and I had applied to law schools. Now, picture all that stuff I did to my brain all those years, and I still had some gray matter left. I still had some cells that were clicking and doing and carrying on. And I was amazed at that. So I went and I took the law school admission test, and I scored in the top 40% of the country, of all those young farts out there that came from rich families. This is the truth. The top 40%. I said, "Are you kidding me?" I couldn't even believe that. Are you kidding me? So I applied to all these law schools. Now I'm really thinking I'm hot stuff, But I have a sponsor who's close to me to remind me I am not, that I self-destruct. That if I'm clean today and if I'm on the journey today, it's because I've been able to turn my will and my life over to the care of a loving God as I understand Him. And so, how that played out is I got accepted into lots of different law schools. I mean, a couple in Ohio and a couple back down here was my home. And I even applied to Harvard, but they didn't even answer me. I don't know what that was about. I didn't think too hard about it. I just figured my higher power didn't want me going to Harvard. When I saw that the University of Miami School of Law had accepted me in their law school program with scholarships and grants and loans, I knew I was coming home. I'd been up there 13 years in Ohio. And so I accepted that. They saved a chair for me, as they call it. Anyhow, I was coming home. Then my mother got a brain tumor, and my whole life sort of went upside down. She was 67, and I flew down, and she was having brain surgery and tumors taken out, and I missed the deadline anyhow. And they had given the chair away and given my money away, the scholarships and the grants, because I had failed to answer something in a timely fashion. They expect that out of their pre-law students, If you're going to be a lawyer, you got to grow up and play by the rules, something I never did. Anyhow, I sat down at the table and cried. My kitchen table. I'm reading the letter. "Sorry you missed the deadline. You're free to reapply without prejudice," blah, blah, blah. I said, my higher power let me down. It was the first time in recovery that I had felt let down by my higher power. Really let down. And the thought occurred to me, maybe it was all a farce anyhow. Maybe I just conned myself. A lot of sick thinking. But anyhow, it didn't last. I went to meetings, and I got over it. And I said, "Run my show, HP. Whatever you say. I'm going to suit up and show up, and I'm going to get to a meeting. I'll get off this pity pot. I'm going to reach my hand out to a newcomer. If I can, I'm going to buy her a cup of coffee or something." So what happened is my mother, she succumbed to that. She died in about 6 months. Well, what happened was University of Miami came after me and said, "Come in next year, We got a seat for you again. We got all that money waiting for you." And so that's how it went down. And I went. And after I got about halfway through the University of Miami, and all the funds dried up again. and they wouldn't let me register. And I was in line. I can't register. You owe this from last time, and blah, blah. There's no money. There's no funding, and so forth. So I drove home, and I cried all the way from Coral Gables to Opelika, my hometown. And don't you laugh about my hometown over there. And I said to my old man, they didn't let me register. This was 85. I had about 5 or 6 years clean. And what happened? I said, no money, blah, blah. And I said, I'm going to school anyhow. They have to get a court order to keep me out of there. Because I'll tell you, I'm higher powered now. And they better not mess with me, because you know what I learned in recovery? You got to go through God to get me. You got to go through God to get me. And that's true for you, too. I swear that to you. I assure you of that. So I kept going to classes. They didn't know what they were drinking with, right? They'd look at their rolls and say, Miss Hartman, you're not on the rolls this quarter. And I said, nothing to worry about. A little mixed up in the home office, whatever it is, it'll be taken care of. They thought I was talking about Barnett Bank or something, yeah. And I was talking about the real home office. And, right? You got that, didn't you? Yeah. And that's right. So anyhow, I'm going to class, and these professors, anybody not playing by the rules, they get very nervous. Ms. Hartman, you're not on the rolls. I said, nothing to worry about. Mix up in the home office, it'll be taken care of. 6 weeks I went to class. I knew they'd need a sheriff and some armed marshals to stop me from going to law school. And that's all I knew about that. Because I knew my higher power had not forsaken me. There was some sort of mix-up. I didn't care what it was. I was going to be Perry Mason, hell or high water. And so after about 6 weeks, mysteriously, I get a call. Oh, your checks come in, and we've paid this, and you're on there, and come pick up your $9,822 check to live on for the next quarter, whatever it was. Everything was back on track. I said, HP, you do put me through some changes before I really surrender. But anyhow, there's a fine line between footwork and dope fiending, I still can't find it. I don't know. A fine line. You got that right. Anyhow, it looks like, so I go and no more hitches, and it looks like I'm going to graduate. Oh, my God. And we used to all go to NA meetings in a place called the Warehouse down North Miami Beach. Yeah, you remember the Warehouse? Yeah, and old Charlie M. Anyhow, that was my home base. When I get in trouble, I would just run to the Warehouse, and I'd say, when's the next NA meeting? That's all I cared about, So anyhow, I went over there, and they helped me draft up these invitations to my graduation. So I had 100 printed up. That was to send all my relatives up north, the fine-looking ones, where they're going to send green, large unmarked bills for the wayward niece who looked like she's going to make it. Anyhow. Then I had, I think 300. I don't know if I had 300 or 500 flyers printed up now, because, it's been a while. This was 1987. Anyhow, I had these flyers printed out, and I sent some down the South End, NA everywhere. Right? Everyone was invited to my graduation. Dress any way you want. Just be there, And it was at the James L. Knight Center. I mean, one of the richest joints in town, right, down there in Miami. And so here comes graduation day. And together, except for me. And that was so neat. I had one of my NA brothers say, meet me at the Warehouse at 8 a.m. and I'm going to do your hair, and you're going to be just so. And I had another one say, meet me over here, and I'm going to have the camcorder, we're going to get the whole thing on tape. And it was just awesome. So anyhow, we go, and we have this graduation. I don't know if there were 300, we had about 300 Juris Doctors graduating that day. I was one of them. And so anyhow, it says, stand in this line. When they go up the stage, when they call your name, you take a little bow, you walk off the stage. So anyhow, I did that. So my last name starts with H. I'm about halfway down the line. I get up on, and everyone, they call John Doe and Mary Cameron and whatever, And they called my name, and there must have been 300 screaming addicts from all over the table. I said, oh! There were guys in their biker duds with their collars. I had a few guys in their three-piece suits. I had a few ladies in their professional suits. But most all of you who came were just you. And you didn't have to be anybody else, but just be my NA brother, my NA sister. come party with me, you know, on my day. And you did. You all come out, whoever was there. Anyhow, then I couldn't get in the bar for about a year and a half. I finally, no, a year and a month, they wouldn't let me in. They were looking at my life. They wanted to know why I didn't pay these bills and why I didn't pay those bills. And what about this DUI that got reduced? I was innocent. I told them, innocent all the way. Never rat on yourself. I'm going to tell you right now, you got a Fifth Amendment right to this. Now, hear me out. So, never rat on yourself. You could tell your sponsor, but beyond that, never rat on yourself. So anyhow, I thoroughly convinced those stodgy board of governors, or whoever, after 13 months, or God did, to tell you the truth, that they could let me in. I wasn't no longer a menace to society, and little they know. Anyhow, no, I don't think I am. So anyhow, I hung out my shingle, you know, and I felt like Perry Mason. I mean, female version, right? And that was the joy in the journey of, thank you, the joy in the journey that our dreams come true and recover. If you don't believe me, pick it up. It's in the basic text. That was my dream. Whatever your dream is, you can go for. I don't want to hear any excuse. No excuse whatsoever. Because I know that if I could do it, you could do it. If I could stay clean today, you can stay clean. Because that's how I stayed clean. I looked at people who came before me, you know. And I would say to you newcomers, you know, just keep coming back. Keep coming back no matter what you do. And don't run this to yourself. I'm going to get clean and then I'm going back to NA. No, that isn't how it works. You come to NA and then you get clean. Don't ever stay away from an NA meeting because you've used that day. We need you here. I couldn't stay clean without the newcomer. So don't let anybody run that rap on you, right? The only time it is the desire to stop using. So help me. So help me. And you guys and you gals are the most important people here. You know who you are. You know who you are. I'll just say briefly, so I've been practicing law now. When I come out of that courthouse, you know, that's all I do, criminal defense work, you know. I come out of the courthouse some days, I am higher than a kite. I won this one, I kept this one out of prison, or this one got a negotiated plea, whatever it is. Well, I'm in the trenches, boy. I go toe-to-toe with those state attorneys, fighting this United States constitutional erosion that they're doing to us. I don't mean to get political up here. Narcotics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, and one of them is that very thing. So erase that part of the tape. Anyhow. Don't get me going. Don't get me going. So now I've been doing that since 1988. In 10 years. How about that? And all of a sudden I got a newer car. I don't know how to act because I've been having a clunker all these years. And my last dream was when Charlie McGowan got ill and the warehouse just closed down. My dream was to have another place. We got a place now in North Miami Beach where we have 21 meetings of Narcotics Anonymous. 21 meetings a week there. And it's a real miracle. So if you're ever down there, Narcotics Anonymous is not affiliated with Honey's Place, but I am. So come down there and see me. A newcomer, I just want to say one last thing. We've been through the minefield. I've been through the minefield. Take my hand. Take his hand. Take our hand. And we're going to show you the right way, the safe way through the minefield. Thanks for letting me share.